May 1st, it's my birthday month. So I wanted to do the class that we've been waiting to do since I started doing these classes, and that is about the medicine of the mind. So if you have worked with me, you have all you need. Keep going. If you haven't worked with me but you're wanting to, I would recommend attending this class. This class will give you a good taste test into everything else we do. If you have done all the other classes, this is going to enhance those. So it's not going to replace them because we're not going to have enough time to talk about everything in nutrition, everything about light, everything about sleep, everything about stress and energy. Those have their own classes, so they're standalone, but it's always going to tie back into everything because everything does. So with this class, we're going to specifically go into the rules for the mind. And we're gonna go and use this as a way to restart. And the format of it's gonna be a little bit different than the classes in the past because I wanna give you kind of the blueprint of a day and how to think in it differently, be in it differently, and how to work through all of those things in real time. So we're not just going to be stopping and meditating. We're not going to just be doing intellectual work. We're going to teach you how to work while you live. And that's going to be a very different way to go about this, but you're going to see how it's actually the liberation. It's going to be what frees you. And it's going to loosen your grip on thinking that you have to do everything to heal. It's going to show you in the greatest way how living is the medicine, and it's not just making life be exactly how you want it to be, but gathering your adaptability and your capacity through how you live in the past and how to utilize those things, gather what was golden, leave behind what is no longer necessary, and rework those patterns in real time because you created them in real time, right? So you're gonna have to rework them in real time, and that's exactly what we're gonna do in this class. So I got your questions. A lot of the technicality questions are what we're going to cover in class, so I will put those up on all those questions that we will cover in that class. If you have specific questions you want to make sure are included in that class, you can put them below here in the comment section so I can have those and check back. And if there's anything that you've ever just gotten stuck on or a specific scenario, you can give me those as well, and I will work through those kind of how we did in those other classes, especially that last nutrition class where you gave me a scenario and we thought through it together. And so with this class, it's going to be packed, but I'm really excited. And the beautiful thing about this is that this has kind of been, it's something I've used in medicine with my patients and woven into every, quote unquote treatment plan or therapeutic lifestyle modification approach that I've ever done. But the other thing that makes it so special to me is that I've lived it, and I used it when I was reversing all those autoimmune conditions when I first started, and then I used it again when I've gone through big traumas and big losses in my life, and then I've used it recently as I had a completely different life chapter open up, another one close completely, and everything shifting and changing in between. But the beautiful thing about truce, the beautiful thing about your body, the beautiful thing about every part of you is that it is consistent in its service and belonging to you. And when you really see that and you really understand yourself and what you've been given, mind, body, heart, soul, tissues, symptoms, everything, it makes the process of living so much more beautiful. And that doesn't mean you're going to never have hard times, but you're going to go about the hard times differently. And then every hard time that happens, you level up in the truest sense, not in this burdensome, clenching, just restrictive, pushing, becoming, but this soft, understanding, wise, knowledgeable, increased capacity and adaptability type of knowing, right? And this class is going to help us really go into some of these things that we can't really go into the depths here, because even when I try to do 15 minutes on here, it definitely can't get it done in 3-minute little video clips or even in a little white square. We're going to have the time to really go into the depths of some of these things, like the difference between knowing and believing. What happens when you're stuck in the programming of believing, and even what does it mean to change a belief? And when you're in beliefs, what does that mean for your body? When you're in knowing, what does that mean for your body? And when life is never just black and white, when it has that spectrum of gray in between, what do we do? How do we live through it? How do we change through it when times get really hard, when times are really good? How do we build upon the medicine, increase our capacity even in those times, and how to really understand your mind instead of putting your mind as something separate from you, to go ahead and welcome it back into yourself, in the way you talk about it, in the way you see it, in the way you use it, in the way it becomes your companion, and even moving away from using it as a tool, right? To welcome it back into the system, but put it in place in the system where it beautifully belongs. And that belonging, just think of like a little family unit. When something new is brought back in, or something old returns, and it's welcomed in a way that it belongs, not in a way where it's a separate thing and you have to guard against and you have to protect yourself against and you have to have all these mechanisms to let it be in your presence again. That's going to be a very different experience than welcoming it back in with open arms, understanding, awareness, letting it belong again, and then moving forward in a completely, entirely, totally different way, and how that's going to change your physiology. So we're going to go into all of that. There will not be any discussion about supplements, pharmaceuticals, anything like that. You'll understand when we get in there, you couldn't supplement these things. You wouldn't want to. It would remove the medicine of what life is offering you. But we are going to work through how to think through conflicts, how to think through, even those moments where maybe you've been given a diagnosis, maybe you've been put in a position where you've had an injury, had a loss, had something hard go on in your life, and how to use the beautiful component that is your mind to be another level of medicine outside of all the other rules that you follow when it comes to just being a human on this planet. And then we're going to even go into, the difference between just putting all of the work on your mind, or just putting all of the work on those other inputs like sleep, light, nutrition, stress, and energy, and how this all fits, and then how you can start playing that game of relying less on being super intentional with all the doing stuff on those other elements, right? Because the power of the mind has increased to such a degree. But there's going to be a big difference between just positive thinking, right? And what we're going to go into, which is that lived, embodied knowing, understanding, and how that's not just positivity, right? That is not synonymous with everything's just always positive, you're always happy, everything's always going your way. It's the understanding that things are not going to go your way, but how are you going to be well even in those situations, even if it takes a prolonged amount of chronological time? How are you going to go through it? Who are you as you go through it? And how do you use the magnificence of your mind to enhance every single breath of the time that it takes to go through healing, to go through a loss, to go through a life transformation, to go through anything that you may face. And so I'm really excited. I know you can tell this has been one of my most favorite topics from the beginning, but we really had to have those foundations for the practicality components, because again, if you're trying to put everything on your mind and you're not following the rules where the rules apply with nutrition, with light, with sleep, with energy and stress, with those things that we've already covered, if those aren't in the bag, then you're doing a disservice to your mind, because you're putting an extra burden on it that it shouldn't have to manage, right? If your gut is imbalanced, if you're not sleeping, if you're not doing light, how we talk about, you're adding to the burden of your mind that should be an easy variable for you to remove. But your consistency, your dedication, your devotion to those things are what's required, not just knowing about them, right? So if you've done all those other classes, use this next week to go all in on following the rules like we talk about in all of those other areas, so that when we add this last little spark of the mind, you now become even more of an active participant, even more of a contributor to the biochemistry, to your physiology. And it's not, again, I'm not going to do all the other things. I'm just going to use my mind to get the results that I want. But you're already there and prepared. I'm doing everything that I can do within the doing, within the practicality that we've already gone into. I've removed those variables through living. Now I'm ready to add on the elixir, the additional chemical substrate, and, you know, even genetic composer that is the faculty that is my mind. And so if I were you, that's what I would be doing. I would be pouring myself all into all of those other things already, right? Just because you're devoted to the truth, living those things out, because you're going to bring a different level of you even to this class next week. And then when you're in this class, because you have lived those other things, when we talk about how to enhance the nutrition, when we talk about how to enhance the light, how we talk about how to intensify even the sleep and the benefits before, during, after, you already are doing those things. So now you have the understanding of like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand. And that level of understanding is going to be so much more valuable to you. It's going to give you so much of a greater return on this investment if you're doing those things versus I know about them, but I haven't tried them yet, right? So use that analogy. If you've never swam before and I'm trying to add on the technicalities that really, you know, fine-tune technique and fine-tune speed and fine-tune breath and all of these things, which you've never actually swam, it's not going to benefit you to the degree that it could if you've already been in the water swimming. Even if it hasn't been wonderful, even if it hasn't been the greatest form or the greatest, it wouldn't matter. You would still get more out of it because you've actually been in the practice of swimming. So with that being said, if you haven't done any of those other classes, it might benefit you to do even just the nutrition class again. If you have any gut symptoms, that one has to be in the bag anyways. And when we're talking about the mind, we all know way too much about hormone production, neurotransmitter production, happy, feel-good hormones, all of those different things like serotonin. You already know that it's connected to the gut. You already know a majority of those beautiful compounds are produced by the gut and how much the gut influences everything. So if you don't have nutrition in the bag, I would do that one first if you had to prioritize, and then add this one on later once you get that in the bag, because you've got to have the communication with your body before we can start having the communication with your mind. Okay, so that would be my recommendation. If you haven't taken a class, do one of those nutrition classes. Truth About Nutrition is the OG class that we did many years ago. So if you kind of like knowing why more, I would start with that class. If you're just a what person, like tell me what to do, let me put it into practice and let me make sense of why this works, or I don't even care why it works, I just like when things work. Take that other one that we just recently did, Nourishment and Nutrition, right? And we talk about following the rules just as clear as we could, and then how to break the rules intelligently so that even when you're breaking the rules, you get a benefit from the medicine of living. If you've done all of those and you need that little cherry on top, or you have been working on the mind but you still haven't felt that breakthrough for you, then I would say join this class. If you're one of those that just wants to go to a class and never do work again for your mind, this class is not for you because we're going to teach you how to live, right? It's not going to be we're going to do something on camera, or we're going to do a meditation, or we're going to do some protocol and you're never going to have to work on your mind moving forward. That's just not true. And so if that's what you want, don't come to this class. This is not the class for you. If you are somebody who understands the mind, feels like you know too much about the mind, knows too much about your subconscious, knows too much about patterns and all of those different things, wants practicality, but wants the beauty and the magnificence of the poetry that's also here for you with regards to your mind, then this class is for you. We're going to simplify it. We're going to make it make sense. We're going to have those action steps, that simple understanding so that you can implement it into your life. Because we all know it's not going to benefit you at all unless it is woven and saturating every moment of your life, not just those moments where you get a week off, a vacation, or a break, but how you can just saturate the moments that even everyone on the outside will look in and say that's not medicine, but you know it is, because every breath of your life is medicine. And how you are, how you think, how you breathe, how you utilize everything that you've been given determines the potency, the chemistry, the totality of the medicine that you receive. And it's beautiful and it's worthwhile. So join me next week, May 1st. If you can't, we're gonna get that replay up as soon as possible. And